Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Podium Esports coverage of the 10th race of the fall season for the Esports Racing League presented by SimSeats, live tonight from Kansas Speedway in Kansas City, Kansas. James Pike here, the voice of Podium Esports, alongside Justin Prince and our producer Ryan Bauer, as we get set to bring you all the action from the nation's heartland, and we will jump right into our starting grid, which sees Dylan Basin take the top spot in qualifying. with a 29.753, ahead of Colton Salek, who will start second. Third on the grid will be Blake McCandless in the 66. Connor Horn, your points leader, had a great run at the Charlotte Roval last week. He'll start fourth. Fifth will be the 24, Brandon McKissick. Presley Shore starts in the 6th position. 7th will be the number 1 of Jared Ickes. Nick Miller rolls off in the 8th spot tonight. 9th on the grid is Malachi Drake. Nick Olson qualifies 10th.
11th spot tonight going to Nathan Rabideau at 29.814 and qualified 1/1000th of a second better than his Road 6 compatriot and Kobe Wells. Alex Bell starts 13th tonight, also separated 1/1000th of a second from Ben Bryce. In fact, all those spots separated by 4/1000th of a second from 11th to 14th. 15th is Adam Nettins in a rare start tonight in number 7 with Brett Gardner 16th. Zachary Phillips in 17th, with Colton Zimmer one of his better starting spots in the past few weeks in 18th. Blake Reynolds deep in the field tonight in 19th with a 29.8, with Robert Henrata rounding out your top 20.
21st in the grid will be Nick Indelicato. Anthony Burrows starts in 22nd. Matt Danzig rolls off from 23rd, and 24th will be Adam de Blasio. Lucas Graham begins tonight from 25th. 26th will be Ryan Kendrick. Steven Rosales and John Medjic complete our 28-car grid for this evening. We'll take a look at the track map to show you where we are. Dead center of the country, but on the Kansas side of the border here at Kansas Speedway, one of the newest facilities in NASCAR, opened up in 2001. Jeff Gordon won the inaugural race here in September of that year. A few weeks after September 11th, it was as patriotic as it was special for the driver of the number 24 machine. And we have Brandon McKissick in the 24 car. He'll see if he can do that number some justice and get to victory lane tonight, starting in 5th. We'll take a look at the track facts and tell you a little bit more about this track that opened in 2001. It's a 1.5 mile, 2.414 kilometer oval with progressive banking, 17 to 20 degrees of banking in the turns, 9 to 11 degrees of banking on the front stretch. It gets higher the further up the racetrack you go, which means you're going to see a lot of people run the high line this evening. 5 degrees of banking on the backstretch. It's flat. It's the one part of the track without progressive banking. We race in sim just after 8 p.m. local time on the default day for iRacing. May 15th, 2020. We go through 70 laps, 105 miles, just under 170 kilometers. Temps, 71 degrees Fahrenheit air temp, 72 degrees Fahrenheit track temp, winds headed to the south at 9 miles an hour, and humidity of 51%. I'm glad to have you with us on the ERL Twitch channel, or YouTube, or Facebook, or wherever you might be, as we will go green flag racing from Kansas. Dylan Basin will see the green flag and lead us to the stripe runaway for the 10th race of the fall season for the Esports Racing League presented by SimSeeds from Kansas Speedway. And Basin got a good jump ahead of Colton Salek, who may well give up second to Blake McCandless, and does. And the 66 will immediately jump up high, and we'll see how quickly these drivers get up to the wall. By the time they get to 3JP, they're usually already there.
Yes, the top line, as seen, especially this year with this package, is the faster line in that you're able to save tires more and you can carry more momentum. You'll see most of the drivers try and get up to that wall as quick as they can within about 4 or 5 laps, give or take. Right now, though, you can make the bottom work. It just burns up your tires. McCandless to the lead.
There goes Blake McCandless in the 66 car, who gets to the front, but not before Dylan Basin gets down to the inside and will fight alongside McCandless and take the lead back and pull a slide job up to the very top of the racetrack, and we'll see where McCandless decides to go on corner exit. But that's how you run here at Kansas. You make passes, you send it off in deep, you get to the bottom quickly and slide up towards the wall. It's right along the fence that the speed is found at Kansas.
Yes, and expecting the back and forth to continue for a couple laps. Should note, though, the start is under review. You may have noticed Colton Salek was about half a car length up. That's something some drivers do on short tracks if they want to keep the top line for the start of a run. The rule is, though, as clarified tonight by Anthony Alfredo directly, you need to go at green. He ended up going a little bit too early, it looked like there, and that botched up the top a little bit. Of note, though, Blake Reynolds is already up to 10th.
Surprise, surprise. Blake Reynolds already moving in with pace, in with speed. as well. No shock that the driver from Team Dillon Esports in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series is making his move as one car behind him bounces off the fence, and it's wild racing towards the back of the pack. You look behind Blake Reynolds, and you've got Colby Wells in the mix. You've got Nathan Rabideau in the mix, and then a casual 3 wide between Anthony Burroughs, Brett Gardner, and Evan Rice.
And this is going to be the tough part for a lot of the drivers there, is finding patience, because it can be so tough to be able to make a pass. There's a chance some drivers may try and park the bus necessarily to try and make moves if they are not on the top, or try and squeeze their way up to the line. But right now, many of these drivers not thinking of the big picture in that regard. A lot of them are burning up their equipment trying to get some track position still on that bottom.
Makes tons of sense there. It's Basin, McCandless, Salick, and then door-to-door between Connor Horn and Brandon McKissick for the 4th spot. Good battle there. There goes Blake Reynolds to the bottom again. He may not have a right rear at the end of his green flag run, but while he's making moves, he's getting to the front in quick order.
Yeah, he's taking the bottom line better than anyone else, where he's going full send into the section. The interesting part's going to be when he reaches the back end of McKissick. I also, at the same time, feel like Reynolds is going to be paying for this in about 5-10 laps, because you push too hard in this part of the race, you fall off a ton by lap 25 to lap 30. The bright side, though, on that is the fuel mileage is about 60 laps. So it's likely going to be split up the middle, so he wouldn't have to struggle for too long and hopefully get some clean space.
Right on board with Nick Olson there, and really mixing it up in the middle of the pack. Blake Reynolds is right where all this action is. As one car underneath him gets really loose. I couldn't tell that. I think was the 24 of Nick Olson, who was sideways there for a split second before he gathered it back up. Races alongside the one of Jared Ickes as Reynolds continues to work that bottom and tries to get underneath and behind Connor Horn, and just about found a hole in between Horn and Presley Soar, who had to check up, and to his inside goes Nathan Rabideau and Jared Ickes.
I don't think he meant for it to be that close, but like I said, with the top line being the line, you need to find a hole. Black flag to Dylan Basin. Basin is being black flagged.
I have to believe that's for the start then, JP, yeah?
Yeah, it was discussed where they were supposed to go on green, and now Basin is out of position once again. To explain the situation, flagman starts the race, the leader can choose the line, and then fire in the restart zone for the restarts. Tonight, the result of Salick we've seen back up a little bit, or go forward a little bit, and in turn, black flag given to Basin for how he handled his start, backing up a little bit on the speed.
So Basin loses the lead on jumping the start, the initial green flag at the very top end of this race. And that puts Blake McCandless in front, ahead of Colton Salick and Brandon McKissick now.
Yep, that's exactly it there. So yeah. Now it's going to really hurt Basin, because he was dominant to start this off. Now it's Blake McCandless the clean air, and oh, by the way, he might lose his lap here in about a couple seconds or so. And there's not knowing when you'll see some trouble at this point, because there's expected attrition because the aggression expected, and of course the toughness of staying up against the wall, and some drivers in turn burning up their equipment and smacking the outside wall. But if he gets that caution, he might be able to try and recover.
He'll need the yellow flag, though, no question. Just with the way everyone laps Kansas Speedway, you're going to be way buried in all of this. And Basin is only about maybe 4 seconds ahead, if that, of the leaders. So he's almost a lap down after that penalty, even if he should have a pretty fast race car.
Indeed. The pace right now, by the way, already a full second of fall off, James. And it looks like, again, whoever's used that bottom line and hasn't found a way up to the top, just going completely backwards, and some of them just trying to force the way on up. The main thing is going to be, too, if you get a run on the high side and get to somebody's right rear quarter panel, you can take away that top line from them if they leave any space trying to stay away from the fence, and then freight train them and cause positions to go backwards for that said driver like Nathan Rabideau. Just lost 2 from that maneuver.
Rabideau did indeed. He tried as best he could, but Ickes and Reynolds were able to clear him, and now it's Alex Bell trying to fight the 93 machine. Nick Olson in tow there. Anthony Burrows is there, and it's very stable through this front half of the field. You have to go back to about, call it 14, 15. Colby Wells, Zachary Phillips, Evan Rice, Matt Danson, who was the winner a week ago at the Roval at Charlotte Motor Speedway. First Australian to win an ERL competition in the league's history. Plenty of fun happening back here, and they just keep on weaving and bobbing and dancing all around this racetrack. Doesn't seem like anyone's necessarily committed to a groove just yet.
I think it's more so the difference on how they approach the top, because as talked about, especially off turn 4, many times drivers, if they get too tight, they're going to knock down that safer barrier, crash into the infield, and likely cause a caution flag. At the same time, I should rather say, most drivers try and pace themselves for this type of race. Some may go to the middle line to try and take advantage of some of the speed on entry, then slide up for a spot to commit to the spot. There's a couple different ways all the drivers can go in. Drivers are talking about a bit loose in 1 and 2. Some drivers are also talking about some tightness everywhere else.
Going to be wild to see how it shapes up, how it pans out. But McCandless still your leader. Salick in second. McKissick has looked a little bit antsy, though, and the same for Jared Ickes, who's having one of his best runs of the season. This is, I think, more of a prototypical track for this particular aero package, especially for the drivers who know how to play momentum, as McKissick just about gave the top side to Connor Horn. He was looking underneath Salick and instead gets a bump from the 67 down the backstretch. But if you know how to play the momentum, you can make hay very quickly here, as we saw with Blake Reynolds just a few laps ago, as I think we're seeing with Connor Horn now. It's not necessarily a track where it's about driving ability. It's about more where you get back to the throttle and how you get back to the throttle and how long you can hang on to it in the corner. Sounds self-explanatory, but it takes a dedication to that particular way of racing in order to make it work with this package that we already know is so momentum based.
Exactly, and in turn, don't be surprised if someone gets a great run off turn 4, let's say, to carry that better run off the momentum and on throttle, and try and get to the outside in 1 and 2. We're seeing Blake Reynolds try exactly that. He sees Ickes trying to go a little bit lower on the exits a little bit, just to make sure he doesn't plow into the wall, and is getting impatient. He's nearly ran over Ickes at least 3 times in the past 5 laps, trying to find a way to get to his outside and getting a little impatient with him just trying to make sure he doesn't shove that wall. Reynolds, for his sake, has almost shoved the wall twice in that same span.
You would think at some point he'd try and make the move now. Here goes Connor Horn looking to the outside of Brandon McKissick, who's going to drive it in deep and fight right back up to the wall. That will give Horn the opportunity to go low. McKissick drops maybe a half lane to hold the 67 at bay. Meanwhile, Reynolds has found the outside of Jared Ickes and should, in the next few moments, go up to 5th outright.
I think he let him on go because he felt like, again, he was going to get ran over there. The next question is going to be how he handles some of the drivers fighting for the championship. Connor Horn, of course, the points leader in tonight. Colin Salick needed a good points night, still up in second spot. Keep in mind, some of their competitors who needed a big amount of points gained are in uncomfortable situations tonight, like Lucas Cram on a makeshift rig this evening, James. He's still back in 24th. He said to drivers personally via text, he felt he was going to be worse tonight than he normally would be.
4 drivers within a race's worth of points to Connor Horn. Colton Salick is second in the point standings. He's 11 back of Horn entering tonight. And Presley Shaw is third, 25 points back. Lucas Cram was 4th entering tonight, 32 points back. And Nick Indelicato was 5th in points, 35 points back of Connor Horn in the 67 machine. So I would say at this point, that's about the points battle for the championship. Everybody else is just about racing for wins, but that's not to say that some of the other drivers don't have pace. They just don't necessarily have the same number of starts as Connor Horn and Colton Salick and company. And Blake Reynolds is a perfect example of that already to the bottom of the 67. Looks like he's going to send it off and try and claim another spot, maybe 2, if he can get alongside Brandon McKissick. But Horn shuts the door on the outside and keeps Reynolds at bay. And I thought Reynolds was about to go around. It was very tight between Reynolds and Brandon McKissick, but McKissick holds on, Horn holds on, and Reynolds is now stuck on the bottom and is about to lose that spot to Jared Ickes.
He's going to be really frustrated on that. Already Rabideau taking advantage with that same thing I talked about. Get to the outside. Reynolds not giving as much space. You can see he's showing that frustration in the backdrop. Just needs to take a deep breath, be able to repace himself and find the right holes. Some of these drivers ran NIS Fix, for example, tonight to prepare for this race, like McCandless, your race leader. And whenever they tried to make an aggressive move, they went backwards just like that.
And when you consider Reynolds' case in particular, you make note of the fact that he ran so hard on those tires early on, it makes you wonder how much good he has left on them compared to the other drivers in this top 10. Gives you the sense that if he tries to go hard, he'll go back very quickly because he'll just get freight trained up top. And even if he does hold that top line, he may well be in trouble anyway.
Exactly. And now, with his tires a little bit more angry, he might need to try something different strategy-wise to try and play things up. But the problem is, this track also is one where you need a bit of the draft. It's difficult to break away. You're seeing this with McCandless, for example, and everyone else up front who has been at equal footing. Caution flag is out, though.
Won't matter. Incident on the front straightaway. Evan Rice is one of the cars involved. About 5 or 6 caught up in this, and there were a few that were sideways. We'll take a look at the replay momentarily to see what exactly happened to set us under the yellow flag. But I see Lucas Graham get involved here. Looks like it's Graham Midget and Robert Hanrana in the 37. They're the ones that get involved in this. Right off the corner, you see the contact there with Hanrana and Lucas Graham. Hanrana goes around. Midget has nowhere to go. Evan Rice has nowhere to go. They bounce off of each other, and then everybody wrecks down the front straightaway to bring out the first yellow flag of the evening.
Well, like I said, most drivers would try and park the bus if they got really frustrated here, but at the same time, this is for 20th, about 5-10 laps away from the expected pit margin for most of these drivers. See that major send? Already Hanron is up in the wall. He has to check up, bobbles himself. That's just enough for him to just lose the back end and cause calamity down in the back part of the field. Again, we were expecting this aggression with how difficult it's been to pass at this part of the run with the parking the bus situation, but at the same time, you need to think about big picture here before, in some cases, you make that move when you know, oh, hey, I might be able to pit in a lap or two.
It's almost like he was trying to come down to block Lucas Cram, but by the time he was down there, Cram was already to his left rear quarter panel, and there was nothing that could be done at that point.
I think it's more so once Hanrada got checked up there and started snapping to the right, that's what hooked Cram there. I don't think the block on Cram necessarily is a big part of all of that. It's just the mix of the block, but at the same time, just not be able to make the car stick here.
In either case, field's down on pit road, everybody in for service, and we'll keep our eyes glued to the front end to see who wins this battle off of pit road, who tries any sort of fancy style, and how about Blake McCandless holding serve and beating Colton Salick out, beating Brandon McKissick out, then Carr Horn, then Jared Ickes, then Nathan Rabideau. So that's just about as they were at top 6. Nick Olson is the first one to actually gain a spot. He beat Alex Bell out to go get 7th, and Bell slides back to 8. But top 6 all just as they were entering pit road this time by. Coverage of the Esports Racing League presented by Podium Esports is brought to you all by SimSeats. Since 2009, SimSeats has been designing and fabricating high-quality driving simulators, including motion systems, custom fabricated parts, and complete turnkey iRacing packages, all made in the United States of America. Their customer base includes all kinds of drivers, from amateurs to professionals, and their passion for racing drives them to build better sim racing equipment. Don't limit your track time to the weekend. Visit www.simseats.com for more information. Rather, sim-seats.com. We'll take a quick moment under this commercial break to go side by side, and we'll get to hear from some of the partners that make ERL happen. But don't go anywhere. More racing from Kansas Speedway right after this.
At McConey Setup Shop, we offer custom-built setups for any asphalt oval car. Prices starting at just $5. Weekly setups available for all Legends, late models, modifieds, and NASCAR trucks, Xfinity, and Cup cars. Do you need one-on-one driver coaching? We've got you covered. Visit www.McConeySetupShop.com and find yourself in Victory Lane. McConey Setup Shop, handling all your setup needs so you don't have to.
Welcome back to Podium Esports coverage of the Esports Racing League presented by SimSeats at Kansas Speedway. Blake McCandless, your leader, coming to the restart on lap 30 of 70, just about at halfway. Pace car is off. The 66 Sim Racing Search Chevy Camaro takes off, and he got a great jump ahead of Colton Sandlick, who did not get going. Connor Horn will be all over the rear bumper of the 99. Here comes the 24, Brandon McKissick, with a good restart. He may be able to clear the 99 before they get to turn 2, and might just dump Sandlick back to third.
Again, Sandlick caught sleeping on the start. This time, though, it was indiscretion for the leader from the pace truck off to the green flag wave. McCandless timed it up well. Sandlick checked up that entire top line, and now as a result, 2 to 3 wide. Everyone want to take an advantage of this again before anything else happens and before these tires fall off. Keep in mind, the top drivers who were in the main pack only had about 15% of tire wear, shockingly, about 25 laps. The second pack was an extra 5 to 10% more wear, James.
Waiting for the leader to find his way up to that top groove to hold everyone at bay, and McCandless finally does, although he's not afraid to go to the very inside to keep everyone checked up. So he'll get that big send down to the bottom. Meanwhile, Horn will go wheel to wheel with the 24. A little bit of contact further back in the field, but we stay green flag racing, and the best battle up the front belongs to Brandon McKissick and Connor Horn, who are duking it out for second, with Jared Ickes down on the very bottom there too.
And I think if I'm Connor Horn, I want to get clear pretty quickly. And now McCandless doing something pretty interesting, trying to break up the draft from McCandless and give it to the Horn a little bit to try and get both lines to fight. Don't think Horn's going to get clear quite yet. He might be able to try something in turn 1.
Horn may be able to send it in deep, pull a page out of Blake Reynolds' playbook. It's what it looks like the 67 is trying to do. Reynolds, for that matter, is just behind this group, currently scored in the 6th spot. You see the red Coca-Cola machine. You look out the rear of Jared Ickes' machine that we are riding on board with now. There's a shot of all of that Chevy Camaro fighting for position.
Connor Horn was able to complete the pass. Oh boy, big checkup. Massive block up to the top and doing exactly what I thought. You don't want anyone to get to your outside down the front stretch and take away the top line. Massive block for the whole line.
Oh, Jared Ickes got loose underneath Connor Horn. He'll lose first. He'll lose second. He might just lose third to Brandon McKissick, who puts him 3 wide with Alex Bell. And still, that number 1 is just hanging on in the middle. But there's no room to get up to the high line where you need to be. The freight train is coming for the number 1 car, and he is quickly going backwards.
Yeah, it's stuck in the middle at this point. Race lead changing hands again. McCandless with the slide job, trying to get the job done. Crossover back from Horn. This is fairly aggressive, similar to what we've seen at the start of last run, James. The thing is, who's going to hold on is going to be important, because eventually they can't complete those passes without killing their tires.
They'll go back, they'll go forth, and Blake McCandless tried to get to the top side and immediately jumped up there and just about spun himself across the nose of Jared Ickes, who takes it 3 wide for second with Brandon McKissick.
Oh, this is fairly aggressive here once again. McKissick's been quick. Ickes feeling like he's having one of the drives of the season we're seeing so far, though. This may get Ickes up there to second.
Ickes was able to get to the high line before McKissick could shut the door on him, and now there goes Jared Ickes on the outside of the 24, potentially to second when they get back to turn 1.
This is absolutely crazy, but this is quintessential Kansas here on iRacing under the lights. Aggression, needing to find holes, and finding your spots to try and make moves in. The best spots possible, James, is in the first 10 laps off a restart. Massive check starting to build up on the top line.
Everybody really starting to check up there. Blake McCandless looked for a line underneath Ickes, and McKissick, who nearly got into the 1 car and then goes to the top, tried to block Blake McCandless. Blake Reynolds in the middle there too. Very conveniently, 2 and 3 wide for the 3rd spot.
And just forcing his way on through, but for Connor Horn, I think he's in a good spot. He's got clean air, and now the top line we're seeing is coming to full swing. If you haven't found your way up there, congratulations, you're going backwards. The only driver not on the top, inside the top 20, just so happens to be McKissick.
Does indeed happen to be McKissick. And while we have a moment, we're going to bring you tonight's iRacing Midway Race Break, which as always is brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in Australian supercars, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and more, as Connor Horn is still your leader for the moment, ahead of Jared Ickes, and then Blake Reynolds, who I think just got the fence. Blake McCandless has scored fourth. Fifth belongs to Alex Bell. Brandon McKissick is sixth. Anthony Burrows runs in seventh. Eighth belongs to the 99 of Colton Salick. Nick Olson and Nathan Rabideau complete the top 10.
Not only did Reynolds get in the fence, he got squeezed into the said fence. Ryan Kendrick is watching all this in about 11th spot. Miller's in 12th position. Gardner, Basin, Phillips, Presley Sora gaining the spot to swap with Phillips in 15-16. Matt Danson, who had that victory last week, is all the way in 17th spot. Very quiet night for him. Delgado, de Blasio, and Wells rounding up your top 20.
21st is Adam Needens. Colton Zimmer runs in 22nd. 23rd belongs to Malachi Drake, and Evan Rice is in 24th. 25th belongs to John Midget. Steven Rosales is 26th. Lucas Cram and Robert Hanrada, your final driver scored in tonight's field. And that concludes our iRacing Midway Race Break. With over 170,000 drivers on the service and over 90 laser scan tracks and cars to choose from, iRacing is your portal to the racing world. Get on track today at iRacing.com. Horn still your leader. Ickes, then Reynolds, then McCandless, then Bell. Now the top 5. But as we progress through these runs, it seems like the tires fade and it's harder to make those moves down at the bottom that we've seen these drivers pull off over the course of this race. It settles out more and you see more of this freight train effect that has become so commonplace in the sim at Kansas throughout the past few seasons.
Yeah, and keep in mind, when you're carrying this much speed, something drivers don't necessarily think about too much is, because it's under the lights, they're carrying speeds up to 190 miles an hour into the corners. Some drivers are reporting overheating, and that may force some different types of lines for some of these drivers to get some air to the nose. If not, just force some urgency to then get yourself to clean air. Reynolds there, you've seen Boyd Ickes out of the way. Now the question is going to be, will Horn out of the way here, especially with McCandless now slide jobbing his way back up front.
McCandless tried to slide job Ickes. He wasn't necessarily the quickest out of turn 2, but instead is going to give the spot up to Alex Bell, and Reynolds all of a sudden has caught Connor Horn for the race lead.
It's getting pretty interesting once again. I don't think Horn's going to make this easy, though. We've seen it already where he's not been willing to give up that top line and is willing to do whatever it takes to hold on to that mark. The thing's going to be, though, Reynolds has been able to perfect some of the slide jobs on the bottom side and to park the bus, so to speak, once he gets the apex to take the spot. How he makes this move is going to be critical for how everyone else then responds here.
1,000% right about that as Reynolds continues to look to the bottom, working lap 45 of 70, 25 laps to go here at Kansas, and Connor Horn continuing to pace this field as they've shuffled the deck just a bit behind him, but it's pretty consistently been Ickes, McCandless, Blake Reynolds has been up there. Alex Bell is the only one that's making a late charge. He was in the top 10 in the first half of this race before we had that yellow flag some 20 laps ago, and now he has entered the top 5. The 15 car currently running in 4th.
Get back to that temp issue for some of these drivers in these groupings. 45% tape is what the drivers have on the cars tonight, and keep in mind that's somewhat high for Kansas, but it's a workable high amount. You can go up to about 270-ish under the lights with that range. Drivers, though, in official races in the daytime this week, though, James, for comparison's sake, are reporting overheating at 48%. So that just provides a bit of context on what these cars are having to deal with, and that's why you're seeing some of these big gaps up on the top line as drivers try and get that air.
It almost bears more of a resemblance to restrictor plate racing in that sense than it does mile-and-a-half racing, JP. Interesting to think about when you consider it that way.
Exactly, and the more tape you have, the more downforce technically it is as well, though, the faster you'll go down the straightaways. That's why for the Coke race at Las Vegas, drivers were immediately reporting temp problems because they went right up to that limit from the get-go and then piled it back. In vice versa case for real life racing, where you start on the conservative side and may push up as hello.
About to say that Alex Bell just about turned across the nose of Blake McCandless and wrecked himself, but McCandless checked out to make sure that we didn't have our second yellow flag and that we knew. So now it's all Blake Reynolds holding Jared Ickes at bay. Alex Bell sitting in third and McCandless in fourth. As Connor Horn still your race leader.
I think if you're Horn, you don't want to give this up, because this is a great chance to expand your points lead even more so to at least half a race or so, especially since some of your competition stuck. But Blake Reynolds, there we go.
There goes Blake Reynolds to send it up top. Here comes Connor Horn back underneath to complete the pass and take the lead back. And now here comes Jared Ickes to the bottom. How about Alex Bell up top as Blake McCandless goes to the inside and try and beat the 15 to turn one.
And I think Reynolds needed to try something. He was saving his tires a little bit for that move. Now he needs to try it again. And especially since I don't think he's been really liking being behind Ickes. In part, you've seen that bobble off turn 2. The right rear starting to burn off a couple of these cars here. Coming to 20 to go.
McCandless again trying to find some sort of space in line, but it just isn't there. He's going to lose another spot, I think, this time to Anthony Burrows in the 29 machine, and Colton Salek now in the mix too to the outside of the 66 as McCandless continues to fall back. Ickes, though, has not found anything to challenge the 67 yet.
Not quite yet. He's been +5, but the thing is, Reynolds has been pressuring him every single moment. He's already let Reynolds go at least once. Ickes has. Reynolds again is making it clear. He feels like he's getting held up here and wants to make the move. Don't be surprised if Reynolds tries to peel him off the wall here.
That would be the idea. Here goes Ickes to make his move. Where does Horn go? Because you've got Reynolds, who's going to have a good run off the back straightaway, but Ickes just doesn't have enough to hold any sort of charge on the bottom. That's really what would trip Horn up, is if you could find a place where Ickes would be able to make the move down low and Reynolds can make the move up top, and then you'd have to force Connor Horn to choose. But as long as he's only taking on these drivers one at a time, this is manageable for the 67 as Reynolds throws the big block to keep Alex Bell back in third.
You talk about big block, this is going to be dangerous. Ickes nearly squeezed Reynolds up, and now I think Reynolds is starting to get really peeved here. Because he tried it again. Again, though, lost the momentum trying to check up for the corner. Horn was able to get the easy crossover. That's one of the risks in trying to make the move if you don't time it up right. And as a result now, I think he's going to be even more aggressive from this point on, because I think Reynolds feels he's fairly quicker or can hold on if he gets this lead. The problem is he's just not been able to get it to completely stick whenever he's made the move.
There's another problem that might lead to a yellow before we get to that, and that is that Alex Bell and Anthony Burrows have bounced fenders off each other twice in the last few laps. So keep an eye on those two as Reynolds makes his move to the bottom to try and clear Connor Horn again for the race lead, but can he make it stick? That's the question.
He's tried it a couple times. This time, though, he's checking up a little bit.
Horn got the fence. Reynolds stays down to the bottom. Here comes Ickes, who might go 3 wide and might well just get the lead away from both of them. By the time they get to 1, Jared Ickes is able to go to the point after Reynolds sends it in deep into 1, and he might just take the lead right back from the 1 car who will go to the bottom. And here comes Connor Horn to try and pass them both and take the lead back. I think that was about 3 lead changes there in the span of half a lap. And here comes Alex Bell to the inside.
It's going to boil over at some point the way they're driving right now. Yes it is. It's caution in the middle of the corner.
Caution in the middle of the corner. Alex Bell just about went sideways, but it was further back in the race that we had our yellow. I see Matt Danson swept up in this, but second yellow of the race on lap 55 as it was about to boil over. It was going to be very testy, very quick if we didn't have the yellow. You figured something was going to happen. Looks like that something happened with the 9 car of Nick Miller and the 55 machine that belongs to Brett Gardner.
Yeah, take a look at this, and should note on the radio he was saying please wreck, and right there, yeah. The 55 wasn't completely to the wall. Miller was thinking about the move, and in turn, the back half of the field all stacked up in this one. At least another 5-10 cars involved.
A lot of different cars involved. Matt Danson was swept up in this. Zachary Phillips was involved in this. Presley Sora got some damage. He got caught up in this, as did Adam de Blasio in the 48 car. A few more cars piled in at the very, very end with just nowhere to go. Nothing that could have been done. So big damage for a lot of the folks in the back of the field. Everybody, though, on pit road for what should be the final round of pit stops.
Yeah, that was absolutely craziness, as you've seen there, especially with Danson flipping over. But this is going to be critical for many of the drivers, how these pit stops go. Expecting Miller and Danson to come in for stops here because they have so big damage. But the race out the pit road going to be crucial.
Connor Horn is the first off the pit road ahead of Alex Bell and Blake Reynolds, then Ickes, then Colton Salick, then Blake McCandless. So poor pit stop for Brandon McKissick and Nick Olson, but shuffling at the front as Matt Danson and Nick Miller have yet to come down for service, but you would imagine they will before the yellow flag comes out. Or green flag comes back out, rather. Yeah.
I mean, if you want to be freight train, you can stay out, but I don't think they're going to do that, obviously. But the main thing is, though, this comes down to short run. We've seen how good Reynolds has been sending it to the bottom of the racetrack to make passes. This could get fairly entertaining to see who can hold on to the race lead, as Danson stayed out on the track for a reason here, despite no deck lid.
We'll see what Danson does or doesn't do at this stage. It could be very entertaining if he stays up at the front of this field.
Oh, he can blow up.
Or that? Is that what you're thinking, perhaps?
He just blew up, so it's more than thinking of that.
Yeah, crystal ball works out pretty well, JP. Give yourself credit. But in either case, yeah. So Danson will lose the engine on his 30 car. His night has done no repeat victory in back-to-back races for the 30 car. And Connor Horn will resume his position at the point of this field as we come towards 10 laps to go. A few events coming up here over the next week in the world of podium and iRacing to tell you about. First up, and coming up at the top of the hour, 9 p.m. Eastern, the Dirt Sprint Car Championship Series takes off from Weed Sport, and that you can find on twitch.tv/podium2. We'll also be hosting it on the Podium Esports Twitch channel, the Facebook page, and the Podium Esports YouTube as well. So we will be all over the internet for racing from Weed Sports Speedway. Free entry, $100 to win. Should be a lot of fun, I think, to have on the Podium Airways before PCA Sim Racing returns for its penultimate event of Series 5 from Suzuka. First ever Asian race for PCA will take place on Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, October 16th. The date on your calendar to watch for on the PCA Sim Racing YouTube channel. Monday night, the Sim 500 Trans Service Cup Series will come here to Kansas Speedway for 200-lap race. You can see that on the Podium Esports Twitch channel before Tuesday night. It's the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, also here from Kansas. Next Tuesday night, October 20th at 9 p.m. Eastern on iRacing's Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. Bobby Zielinski locked himself in last night to the championship finale at Homestead. Still, 3 more slots available, and you get one directly if you can win at Kansas. So we'll see who conquers Kansas is a mile and a half and wins their way into the final race of the season and wins their way into a shot for the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series Championship. Restart coming here on lap 60 of 100, or rather 70 rather, so 10 laps to go when we go back racing. Horn, Bell, Reynolds, Ickes, Salick, McCandless, everybody on fresh tires.
It's going to be very aggressive, expecting this to be crazy for the next 11 laps to see who can win this race. Off and away.
Off goes Connor Horn. Good restart for the 67. Bell didn't get the greatest of jumps. Ickes was able to get a decent restart, but Horn's ahead by about 3 or 4 car lengths. That's the biggest thing. Blake Reynolds looking for room somewhere, and there just isn't any. He's stuck behind the 1 car, so he's going to push Ickes ahead of Alex Bell and bump draft him down the back straightaway to try and clear the 1 car to second.
I don't think he realizes, though, that Jared Ickes is there as well for the bump draft. Looking like this is going to be crazy, though. Here we go.
Big wreck. There goes Blake McCandless. There goes the Dylan Basin machine. Yellow flag is out again, and I think that was Alex Bell coming up in front of somebody that triggered all that. We'll take a look at the replay, but another incident over in turn 4 to set us under yellow before we even got going, and it was, in fact, maybe Nick Olson who got into Brandon McKissick. Yeah. We'll take a look and see if that was more McKissick or Olson, but it was contact between those two. Now, McKissick just got the fence. Olson had nowhere to go. He turned down and came down right into Blake McCandless. There was nothing that McCandless could have done. Same for Dylan Basin, too. He was trying to race his way back through the field and just got caught at the wrong place, wrong time, and slid up high. Another car that went sideways, the 16 machine from Nick Indelicato. That Chevy Camaro went sideways down the front straightaway. He made late contact with Brandon McKissick and I think just got loose at the very end, trying to swerve his way around that and ends up looping around as well.
Yeah, Bell taking responsibility for that because as soon as I seen that move and how close it was up to the wall and then your contact fender to fender, could see that stack up starting to progress. I think with McKissick, just kind of tunnel vision. Sometimes as a driver, you line it up bumper to bumper from your cockpit rather than from car line to car line. And sometimes you just misalign it to the right side of the back bumper of the car in front and just plow the wall like that. In turn, just causes absolute calamity. Several drivers just able to make it on through in this.
Several drivers indeed sneaking through it, but a really tough break for Blake McCandless, I think. More than anyone else, who had been up in the top 5 all night long and had nowhere to go and did not have a thing he could have done, I think, to get around it. The 24 machine just came down and bounced right into him, and there's no way McCandless could have seen that either. He was just riding his line. You can see it on the replay here that sort of hung tight, and then all of a sudden he was going around sideways.
Yeah, you don't expect that to happen as a driver. You're going, then you're wrecked, as one of my former teammates would say. Same circumstance there, and while there's a tire set available for most drivers now, if you are in this field, you don't even need to use it, because the way the cautions have flown, whatever track position you have, if you sacrifice it now, you're not going to likely get it back for a chance to win this race. So at this point, this could go to anybody who's up inside this top 8 from what we've seen tonight.
That you are basically locked into where you are, and that is it at the end of the day. That, I think, is a pretty fair assessment of this, given that we are close to 5 laps to go. Although, there is the possibility of a green-white checker finish, which we cannot rule out at this stage either.
Indeed, and keep in mind, we have championship point ramifications too. We lost the 99 due to a power outage, James, just prior to that restart. So that's going to take him out of the conversation for the championship likely, and help Connor Horn's situation even more so, because the lead laps are helping him here. Having the clean air is going to help him on the start. Being the control car is going to help him. There's a lot that's going in the way of the 67 tonight.
We could end up in a situation where Connor Horn could well clinch this title at Martinsville. Just with the way things are panning out, it's all gone his way the last 2 weeks. Tonight is no different whatsoever. He will gain points on everyone, almost certainly, even if he doesn't necessarily win the race. But when you look at the other drivers that are in the title hunt here, the Colton Salix, the Presley Soares are behind him. Soares back in 17th. Lucas Cram is towards the back of the field in 27th. Nick Indelicato is only 10th. He'll lose points to Connor Horn. Everything is going the 67's way.
The thing is, what keeps staying that way at this point? Because Reynolds has been willing to dive bomb it hard for spots. He's been reportedly having fun, he's told fellow competitors. Bell's been willing to be aggressive since it's been an up and down season, and he's been trying to come back for a chance for the championship, mind you. And you have our drivers who are still looking to break through for victories. Nick Olson, top 5. Rabideau, top 7 still. Burrows in 9th spot, looking for another good run on the season. And then you have others who might be able to try and shake up this entire complexion of the championship. There is several different drivers who can end up winning this race, or if anything else crazy happens, could take advantage of luck and get some luck rather.
Potentially is Horn and Ickes are your front two in the field, coming to lap 65 of 70. 6 laps then left to settle this, unless we get a yellow flag. We end up in overtime, but as it stands, we go green flag racing with just over a handful of laps to go. Horn with a great restart there. Ickes and Bell weren't necessarily quick to it, but now here comes the help from the 24 of Nick Olson to shove Bell up into second. He should slide ahead of the 1 car. Should be Alex Bell to P2 before they hit the backstretch, and indeed the 15 goes up top to take that runner-up spot.
And Reynolds right over the back bumper of Jared Ickes once again. He timed it up well and hit the back bumper of the one machine. Wouldn't be surprised to see him quickly make this move. Yes, it is.
How about Nick Olson, though, all of a sudden making a charge in the very late going of this race? This is his base race of the season if it holds. Meanwhile, Bell way up top to try and get the lead away from Connor Horn.
Connor Horn, though, goes to the bottom side to defend once again, but the concern's going to be the top driver who has been able to run on the bottom side all night is right behind them. Blake Reynolds has been able to charge hard into turn 3. There he is again, much more quicker than anybody else on the throttle.
Beautiful work there to clear that 15 of Alex Bell, and this is the nightmare scenario for Connor Horn. When you've got 2 drivers who have ability on the top and the bottom, he'll have to pick one to block. He won't necessarily be able to hold off both, though, and there is the trouble for the 67, but Bell caught the apron, and that will make life much, much easier for Horn coming down the back straightaway. 67 laps up on the board.
One driver who was in contention for this victory is out of contention now. Brandon McKissick, we've seen involved with the caution. He's also just now been black flagged.
Oh, Connor Horn gets turned in the front. Blake Reynolds goes around. Somehow they save it, and then Horn bounces off the fence. There goes Jared Ickes, and now it's Nick Olson to the bottom for the race lead. And here comes Nathan Rabideau through the middle, 4 wide, who gets into the back of Olson, and then they're right in the front of the field. There goes Alex Bell. There goes Connor Horn. There goes everybody in this. And the yellow flag finally comes out after everything finally boiled over. You mentioned it earlier, Justin Prince. You figured it was coming at some point, and there it finally all exploded. And when it went in a spectacularly large fashion.
There was a bit of a bobble of note for Horn towards the bottom, but at the same time, there was no crack of the throttle, it seemed, before that touch with Blake Reynolds. A lot of drivers not happy here. Several drivers were able to gather it back up, but that was just, again, all chain reaction with so many drivers trying aggressive moves there after seeing what happened. Mentioned during the caution flag that if something happened like this, someone like a Rabideau or somebody can charge on through. Guess what? Once everyone gathered it, Rabideau charged it up, and then he lost it trying to make a move to the bottom.
We'll try and go back from the beginning and recap everything that happened in this chain of events, just to make sure that we give you all the complete picture of all this. But this starts over in turn 3. Blake Reynolds dives it down to the inside. He gets into Connor Horn, who goes sideways and then saves it as Reynolds goes sideways. Then everybody stacks up behind the 3 car, who comes across the nose of the 24 as Horn continues to struggle for control out of 4. Horn finally bounces off the fence on the exit of 4. And while Reynolds has stacked up Olson and Bell, and then Jared Ickes got stacked up behind Connor Horn on corner exit. That allows the 29 of Anthony Burrows to catch up, but he gets checked up by Jared Ickes, and the man who's able to carry his momentum out of 4 and launch right into this battle for the race lead is Nathan Rabideau, who you talked about, JP. So Rabideau comes with this head of steam. By the time they get towards the entry into turn 1, Rabideau's already clear of Horn and Blake Reynolds and Alex Bell, and is looking for the lead on Nick Olson, who had assumed the lead at the time. He goes down to the inside as Rabideau to try and get underneath Olson, but doesn't realize that Blake Reynolds is there. So he drives across the nose of the 3 car, who then bounces off into the 15 machine of Alex Bell as Rabideau makes contact as well. And then the 15 comes up the racetrack, and that's where everybody else gets swept up in this. Connor Horn had nowhere to go. Colton Zimmer had nowhere to go. Ryan Kendrick had nowhere to go. Looks like one car a little bit further back smashed into Rabideau's machine. It was John Midget in the 5 car, and that, I think, is where everything finally settled in all of this. And it basically took out the top 5 at that stage and John Midget.
I'm not quite sure how things are going to look for the championship now, because that may have just saved the championship hopes for Colton Salek of note, first of all. Because Horn's engine's gone. He's out of the race. This will lose him tons of points after contending all night for the race win. So there's not going to be as much of a point loss now for the 99. But at the same time, who's left with a clean car? In some of the caution flags before that wreck, we had maybe 15 cars staying out and everyone else either in the garage or getting repairs. We may be down to single digits of clean race cars who haven't had a scratch on their machines. Olsen may have the cleanest car on the track now.
He certainly has one of the cleanest cars on the track as the lights are still on the pace car. Blake Reynolds has some damage to the front of his machine. Anthony Burrows actually is all right in the 29 car. Everybody else just about has some form of damage. Maybe Malachi Drake. Malachi Drake might be okay, but yeah, everybody else, I think, has got some form of damage on their race car. And Burrows may have the cleanest car of the bunch.
Even then, I think Burrows has a little scratch to the right rear, maybe, or one of the quarter panels. Just a touch on the other side. Yeah, there's a little crinkle you see on the right side. Man. Here's an air question. How much engine damage do some of these drivers have? Because I think a lot of them may have gotten away with some potential engine damage, but there are definitely going to be some down a few RPMs, which will hurt their chances here, or going to have some potential trouble getting up to speed.
Reynolds is the one that you think of immediately when you go to that. There's no question amongst the drivers in the top five, he's the most aggressive of them and has consistently been the one looking to make the move to the inside all night long. So, you know he'd try it. The question is whether or not he picked up any engine damage, like you said, in any of these incidents, and whether or not he's got the speed to force that car underneath. On fresh tires, he'd be able to do it, no question. But may have flat spotted them a little bit just with that incident. May also have some engine damage based off the contact he made in the last few wrecks. So then you're looking, I have to believe Anthony Burrows is going to be a factor just by virtue of the fact that his car is the cleanest. Not perfect, but certainly the cleanest of the ones left in this field. And maybe interestingly enough, how about Blake McCandless, who we thought was completely dead and out of it a few laps ago? When he got turned into the outside fence, he may end up with a top 10 run after all. He's currently scored in 8th. We'll bring you our first green-white checkered, and Nick Olsen, who we've not had much of a chance to talk about all night, but has had terrible luck all season long, now has a shot for his best finish of the season, maybe his first win of the season, to bring it home for Grip Motorsports, which would be really, really, really big, I think, for Kyle Beggar and company. But we'll have to see. First attempt at the green-white checker. If we get the white flag before we get a yellow flag, next flag will end the race. If we get a yellow on this lap, we're doing it again. Olsen with the jump ahead of Blake Reynolds. Here comes Anthony Burrows to the bottom, just like I suspected he may well. Look at the horsepower on the number 29 Ford Mustang. Immediately he muscles past Reynolds, and there goes Nick Olsen to the top, who tried to block and just got ahead of the 29, but not before Burrows was able to give him a shot.
Here comes the Delicado, though. We talked about him within range of about a race or so. He might be able to try and get himself into the realistic fight here.
White flag in the air. This is it. One more time around at Kansas for the Esports Racing League presented by Simpsons. They are 3 wide for second. What does Blake Reynolds do?
I think Reynolds getting a little impatient here. He might be able to try and get hard again to the bottom, and Delicado into the wall again.
And Delicado into the fence. Burrows with the send of the lifetime on Nick Olsen down to the bottom of the corner. He's out of it. Reynolds is going to slide up the racetrack, and Nick Olsen is going to come off of turn 4 and surprise everybody to win at Kansas in the Esports Racing League presented by SimSeats. He hung around enough and made it happen on that final restart. And Nick Olsen for Grid Motorsports wins in the 24 car. And just like Jeff Gordon did some 20 years ago, it's a 24 Chevrolet in Victory Lane. Might be September 2001 all over again, JP.
Here's the same thing, though. Hearing from race control, the start is under review because you cannot change lanes before the start-finish line. They're checking if there was a lane change, it looks like, in the front row.
We'll see and go back and look to see what's happened between the 24 and the 29. But as it stands, I don't know if there's anything here. I think the biggest thing is that the 24 machine, I don't know if there's much you can do because he's already on the apron. So, yes, he held himself ahead of the 3, but he's on the apron and stuck, I think.
Some series and some tracks, you're not allowed to cut the apron. That's going to be part of the ruling here, potentially. The thing also that's going to be out of this is Reynolds was going to potentially get near contact there on the right quarter panel to Olsen. I know on the radio Olsen had said something along those lines for his thought process there, but there's going to be at least a couple checks here, especially since, too, Reynolds went to the bottom at the start and finish line and all of that. When you count not just the apron, but this whole line. Take a look right about here. Reynolds starts drifting down right to the bottom line for the actual track surface.
If we're looking at the lane switching there, that's the thing. If you consider the apron the very bottom of the racetrack, Olsen stayed on that white line up until the start-finish line. Reynolds was the one who came down and made the shuffle to get behind the 24 machine and came down from his line. So not really much. I don't know if there's much that you can do in that situation. Especially if you are Nick Olsen, unless you count the apron as part of the racing line, like you said, JP.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of discussion here in all of this. Again, with everything unofficial, this could have major ramifications for the championship. This could have major ramifications for many of these drivers for the rest of the season.
So we will look at the unofficial results as it stands. Nick Olsen is your winner ahead of Anthony Burrows. Blake Reynolds currently scored third in the final rundown. Nicky Delicato was fourth. Fifth went to the 9 of Nick Miller. Adam Needens finished in sixth. Seventh went to Evan Rice. Malachi Drake was eighth. Ninth was Steven Rosales. Brandon McKissick was 10th.
11th spot unofficially is Presley Sora. Ended up having some contact from Eric Carts in the mid-race. We'll see how things fare out with everything to cycle him around with Colton Zimmer 12th. Kendrick, de Blasio, McCandless, and Bell were the only cars to finish this race. Everyone else DNF'd. Horn, 17th. 18th, Ravido. Ickes, who was up at the front much of the night, 19th. John Midget finished in 20th position, 7 laps down.
Gardner was 21st. Dylan Basin, 22nd. 23rd to Colton Salick, and 24th to Matt Dansett. 25th to Zachary Phillips, Colby Wells, Lucas Cram, Robert Hanrada. Your final three finishers. So we'll wait. We're hanging here, waiting on race control, but you would figure that I think there's going to be something for sure. I'm just not necessarily convinced that it's going to be at the very front of the field. Again, unless the apron is part of the consideration here. That's the only way that I think Nick Olsen could be penalized for changing his lane. Otherwise, if you stay glued on the line, it's hard to change a lane, I would think.
I don't know. The thing is, people use the apron, yes, for some of the launches to be able to get a better run, but it was not used by anyone else really all night. He stuck at the line. He almost went there by instinct. Should know. By instinct, it looked like. But the apron is technically, while drivable for racing, it's not necessarily the line you can take for a launch. This may put Anthony Burrows here as a possibility here for the race when there's still a lot of discussion here on how this could all fare out.
We are waiting. We have not heard anything officially from race control at this time. So regardless of what may be said or what you might have heard, as it stands, we are still sitting and waiting, and Nick Olsen is unofficially your race winner. We'll see what race control decides at the end of this, but while they do, we'll remind you of some of the other events coming up in the world of iRacing over the course of the next week. Coming up at the top of the hour, 9 p.m. Eastern, it's the Dirt Sprint Car Championship Series from Esports Speedway. $100 to win, no entry fee. Somebody's going to go home with 3-digit figures of money at the end of the night. You can watch that broadcast on twitch.tv/podium2 at 9 p.m. Eastern tonight. You can also see it on the Podium Esports Facebook and YouTube pages. We'll also be hosting that broadcast on the Podium Esports main Twitch channel as well, so we'll be able to see it in plenty of places. Before Friday night, we go to PCA Sim Racing, the penultimate round of the season for the Porsche Club of America in their Cayman GT Force from Suzuka over in Japan. Broadcast will kick off at 7 p.m. this Friday night, October 16th, on the PCA Sim Racing YouTube channel. Monday night, it's the Sim 500 Train Service Cup Series from here at Kansas Speedway, October 19th on the Podium Esports Twitch channel, 9 p.m. Eastern. That's where and when you need to be around to see some of the best drivers outside of the ERL tackle Kansas. And then Tuesday night, the stars. Blake Reynolds will be one of them, but he won't be the only one, as the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series comes to Kansas Speedway next Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. October 20th is the date for your calendars. iRacing's Twitch channel, Facebook page, and YouTube channel are the places to be. At this point, we'll take a side-by-side break and see if we can let Race Control sort this out. But don't go anywhere. We'll have post-race interviews in just a few moments as you're watching coverage of the Esports Racing League presented by SimSeats here on Buddy Esports from Kansas Speedway. Don't go anywhere. Post-race show continues in just a moment.
We are back at North Wilkesboro, North Carolina, where the field is rolling out for the start of today's 400-lap race on this 0.625-mile racetrack. And just as the field comes all around turn number 4, the sunshine peeks through, helping warm things here. Bill Elliott leads him down. Benny Parsons on the outside. The green flag flies, and the first Union 400 Winston Cup race from North Wilkesboro is underway. Everybody nicely through turns number 1 and 2 as Bill Elliott has the lead, and Dale Earnhardt has jumped into second position, followed by Benny Parsons and Bobby Allison. So here we go. It's just about to go away. They bump coming out of turn 4. Earnhardt gets the lead. We had just heard from our spotters that Neil Ryan. Dale Earnhardt is on his last lap. This will be his 24th career win. Dale Earnhardt wins the first Union 400 at North Wilkesboro.
At McConey Setup Shop, we offer custom-built setups for any asphalt oval car. Prices starting at just $5. Weekly setups available for all Legends, late models, modifieds, and NASCAR trucks, Xfinity, and Cup cars. Do you need one-on-one driver coaching? We've got you covered. Visit www.McConeySetupShop.com and find yourself in Victory Lane. McConey Setup Shop, handling all your setup needs so you don't have to.
We have an official ruling as we welcome you back to Podium Esports coverage of the Esports Racing League from Kansas Speedway. The results that were unofficial have been deemed official in their entirety, which means that Nick Olson takes home his first victory of the ERL fall season for Grip Motorsports and the 24 Chevy Camaro. We're now joined by Nick in the booth. And Nick, I don't know whether or not it was your strategy to just sort of hang around towards the 10th to 15th spot all race and then charge later, whether or not there was some luck involved. But how did you find your way up here just to even be in this spot for the final restart?
Well, and by the way, I hope you guys are doing all right. What a deal. If with 10 to go, you told me we'd be doing this, I'd have said no way. But we got a good restart there. I take it to the restart with 10, the second to last restart. I don't know how many laps there were, but I was with Bell. I'd restarted 5th. I'd pushed Bell clear to 2nd, and the race was just the race to get to the wall. How whoever could get to the wall first was going to be able to hold it. You got to be able to rip the fence and then build the momentum up, because that momentum's not going to be beaten. So we got up there. We ended up getting by the 15, and then you saw the big wreck. And I'm not known for my wreck avoidance, let's say, but boy, we got it when it counted.
That final restart and those final 2 laps, just take us through every move you made to get the checkered flag.
Yeah, I knew Blake was going to be hard to beat. Blake had been, definitely the most aggressive guy out there all day. But I would attribute I would say the move of the race was cutting that 29 off a turn 2. It's just how you got to drive these cars. It's not like I'm a fan of throwing blocks like that. While I am known for aggressive moves and things of that nature, you have to do what you have to do to keep your car out front. So we put it in the right spots tonight. I'm as surprised as y'all are. You guys know this has not been a season that I've been necessarily fond of enjoying. We've had some rough results, missed some races back when we had full fields, but now that we're able to get out here and race every week, it's still a hell of a group of drivers. 30 of the best you'll find, and we're really having a good time.
And as you just mentioned, I was going to ask you about that, so we'll give you the chance to expand on that a little bit more. But in a season where you've not had the best of luck, where you've been caught up in a lot of different incidents, in that light, how does this win change the way you look at the season and change your approach for the final few races on the calendar?
Well, unfortunately, I actually haven't looked at the points, but I mean, we're pretty far out of touch with any kind of ability to lock in, I would assume, for next season. Last season, as good as we were in that championship hunt, we came up 1 point short of those guaranteed spots from the Premier Series, so to Reynolds, ironically. So that was pretty good to get that win tonight. But yeah. We got that win at Talladega last year, if y'all remember, in a pretty lucky fashion when Clampett and a couple others got tangled, and it kind of felt like the same kind of deal tonight. But you got to take advantage of the opportunities when they're given to you, and I'm proud to say we brought the great Chevy to victory lane tonight.
And a big win coming up, especially when you've got the Ultimate Driver Challenge in the not-too-distant future. You carry those colors on your car tonight, and I suppose this is a big morale booster for that, too, no?
Oh, without a doubt. I don't know if Kyle Dagger's watching, but he's been pretty instrumental in getting this series together, and with the amount of racing that I do, I've been trying to do my part, getting folks involved, and they still can. We have open registration until Halloween. GritMotorsports.com. You can check that out. It's a heck of a series. We're really excited to put this on with you guys, and I just think it's an extremely unique concept to have kind of 7 cars, 7 races, and you can choose whichever car you want for any track. Throws a layer of strategy in there. I've had a lot of people tell me, hey, this is a really cool idea. I don't know how nobody's come up with this before, and quite frankly, I don't know how either. But we're glad to spearhead this one, and we're looking forward to you guys bringing the action.
Well, Nick, I know there are plenty of people that make it happen for you, so who do you need to thank for making tonight possible?
Well, first I got to thank Blake and Connor for getting tangled up in turn 3. But I got to thank Kyle Dagger, everybody at Grit Motorsports. They were nice enough to let me put their logos on their race car, and we made a run at Road to Pro this past season, which my teammates Lucas Cram, Brandon Hoff, we're bringing on a few more for next season. But we're really excited for the future of Grit Esports, and this Grit Ultimate Driver Challenge. Just cannot thank everybody at Grit enough for helping me get where we're at today. And thank you guys for broadcasting.
Well, Nick, from all of us at Podium Esports and the Esports Racing League presented by SimSeats, congratulations on your first victory of the fall season. We look forward to seeing you 1 week from tonight down in Texas.
Yes, sir. Can't wait.
Nick Olson, your winner in the number 24 machine for Grip Motorsports, gets win number 1 of the fall season. And JP, as we get set to turn our attention over to Texas Motor Speedway. New Texas can be tricky to tire manage if you get a long green flag run. And we saw how crazy the finish was in the spring. That's where Blake Reynolds was able to sneak past both of Brian LaPrade and Brandon McKissick in that wild last lap finish that a lot of people have seen at this stage to win at Texas. So will it be more of the same 1 week from tonight?
I think so, because it's a bottom-dominated track rather than top-dominant track, and in some cases, drivers have made it well known that they're willing to try and block hard to hold on to the bottom of the racetrack on the short run especially. I wouldn't be shocked to see some craziness like we've seen tonight, but not as much. As well, wouldn't mind seeing, I wouldn't be surprised rather, to also see a bit of strategy come into play, because it's a different kind of mile and a half, because the different banking in turn 1 and 2 compared to turns 3 and 4, which can change some of the driving styles drivers may have compared to, say, a Charlotte or an Atlanta with similar shape.
We'll find out about how Texas will go down in a Wild West showdown next Wednesday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on the ERL Racing Twitch channel or Facebook page or Anthony Alfredo's YouTube channel. October 21st, the date you need to mark on your calendars when we head to Texas. 3 races left in the fall season for the Esports Racing League presented by SimSeats. You will not want to miss them. You'll not want to miss what's coming up here in about 15 minutes over on twitch.tv/Podium2. It's the Dirt Sprint Car Championship Series from Weed Sport. We're going to go dirt racing on Podium. Justin Prince going to be on the call alongside Blake McCandless, who had that strong car the opening half of tonight's race from Kansas Speedway. It's time for us to say goodnight from Kansas for Podium Esports broadcast of the Esports Racing League presented by SimSeats. So Francisco Scaramuza, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore at Podium Esports. For Anthony Alfredo, Zach Johnson, and Joshua Mendoza at the Esports Racing League. My colleague in the booth, Justin Prince. Our producer, Ryan Bauer, as well. I am James Pike, the voice of Podium Esports. Thank you so much for watching our broadcast of tonight's race. We look forward to seeing you at the top of the hour over on twitch.tv/Podium2, the Dirt Sprint Car Championship Series from Weed Sport.